Welcome into another exciting edition of Locked On Eagles Squad Show. Louie DiBiase, Harry Mays, Marc Farzetta with you. I thought we were past the age of lists, but one just came out, and it puts Jalen Hurts only as the 9th best quarterback in the NFL. What? Yes! We'll get into that. Underrated camp storylines, and Nick Sirianni defends his QB. All that and more on this edition of Locked On Eagles Squad Show.
Why Eagles Fly? It's the Eagles Squad. Sponsored by Gametime. Everything Philadelphia Eagles every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the city of brotherly love. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Get ready and squad up. It's the Eagles Squad Show starting now.
Welcome in once again to the show, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Locked On Eagles Squad Show, and this particular episode is brought to you by the amazing people at the Gametime app. Want to go to the game, the concert, the comedy show? Gametime app has you covered, so download the app, create an account, use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Gentlemen, I thought we were in the clear. I thought with 7 days remaining until training camp, we weren't going to have to be concerned with these lists that were made by the talking heads and whatnot. Well, we were safe from that. What we weren't safe from was the NFL's coaches, the NFL's general managers, executives, and the NFL scouts listing Jalen Hurts as the 9th Super Bowl winner, Super Bowl MVP, two-time conference champion, runner-up to the MVP, guaranteed touchdown play. Jalen Hurts ranked as the 9th best quarterback in the NFL. I find this to be absolutely ridiculous. I have said it many times since we started doing the squad show, gentlemen. I have Jalen Hurts as the second best quarterback in the NFL. Second best quarterback in the NFL. Bar none. Second best quarterback. Well, bar one, I guess, Patrick Mahomes. But other than that, there's nobody I would take other than Patrick Mahomes over Jalen Hurts in the NFL. Absolutely. No, everybody else has participation trophies. All right. And I got all the respect in the world for Matthew Stafford. But for me, about going forward, who's the quarterback I want going forward? It's Patrick Mahomes or it's Jalen Hurts. End all, be all. That's where I put it. So I find this list, Harry, to be atrocious. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, I would come up with a different list than what they came up with. In fact, I just jotted it down before the show, doing all my my frantic prep. And I got Jalen Hurts at number 6.
Oh, come on.
Okay. I go Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Jackson, not Alan Jackson, the country singer, but Allen up in Buffalo, and then Lamar in Baltimore. Then I'm going to put Stafford in there just because of the way he can sling it, and he's won a Super Bowl. And then I go Jalen Hurts. See, for me, I look at quarterback, you got to be able to throw the pill, okay, to be in the top echelons, or you have to have some overt superpower type of ability like Lamar Jackson does, okay? It's either or for me, or both. And Mahomes has both, kind of. But Burrow is a supreme thrower of the ball. I think he's probably the best in the league at throwing the football. Stafford is right up there, too. Then I get Jalen Hurts at number 6. Nobody needs to get offended with number 6.
I'm greatly offended. Why do you hate Jalen Hurts, Harry?
Yeah, exactly. Somebody at Philly Voice might write an article about this tomorrow, that people are saying that I hate Jalen Hurts. And they'll attribute it to nobody with a quote, and then they'll ask Nick Sirianni about it, and he'll say it's bullshit. And that's where we are today. But then after Hurts, then I go Goff, Herbert, Daniels, and Stroud, and that's my top 10. Mayfield is number 11, Dak Prescott 12, Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love, round out my top 14. I can't even give you 15 because the Atlanta Falcons haven't told me that they think Kirk Cousins is better than Michael Penix Jr. So I can't put Cousins at 15.
All right, Louie, before you give us what you think about the list, here is the official list. Again, this is from NFL coaches, executives, general managers, as compiled by Jeremy Fowler of ESPN. Does a great job running around making sure it gets everyone's opinion on this. Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Jackson, Daniels, Stafford, Herbert, Goff, Hurts, and Baker Mayfield. I will say, Louie, just real quick, just as an aside, I like Baker Mayfield a lot. I think the guy's got cojones, and I think He's just a good quarterback. So him getting even consideration for the top 10, Harry for top 11 for you. I like that he's getting a little shine from some people here. But Louie, what did you make of this list compiled?
Yeah, it just shows me when I see lists like this and I see who's making them, I know who has changed their opinion since Jalen Hurts was drafted to now and who hasn't. Because I feel like I've been realistic with Jalen Hurts over the years. I can see why Mark has him at number 2. I would put him at number 5. Like, I would take Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, and Burrow ahead of him. If I'm starting a new franchise today, those are the 4 guys I'm taking over Jalen Hurts. But to put him at number 9 after what he did last year in the NFC Championship, in the Super Bowl, after what he's done really going back since 2022 when he was an MVP finalist, tells me that you have a stubborn pre-draft ego that you are not willing to get over, and with more information, with more evidence, you're not willing to change your take. They're putting Oklahoma Jalen Hurts at number 9, not 2025 Jalen Hurts at number 9, and that's where I take issue with this. And I think these executives and whoever's making these lists, they kind of contradict themselves, because I think the reason they put guys like Justin Herbert ahead of Jalen is just physical ability, right? It's less about on-field accomplishments, and yet why is Patrick Mahomes number 1 over Josh Allen, over Lamar Jackson, over a Joe Burrow? It's because of on-field accomplishments. So why do we not boost Jalen in that way, but we do boost Patrick Mahomes? So right. I can actually see where Mark has a good take for putting him at number 2, because a lot of those top 4 guys have had great rosters, like Jalen Hurts has, and Jalen's done more with a great team. He's done more with a great team than Lamar did, than Joe Burrow did, than Josh Allen did. He got over the hump. Those guys had some great teams, made it to AFC titles and Super Bowls, and they couldn't finish like Jalen did. So I don't put him at number 2, but I think he's closer to number 2 than he is number 9.
Here's my criteria. Like, before Saquon Barkley got here, he went to the Super Bowl. They lost the Super Bowl. He played great, had the awful fumble, but played good enough to win, as they say.
It was one of the best Super Bowl performances, I think, ever, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, look, people put a lot into the the efficiency rating and all that, but I'm not just going to ignore the fact that there was a big fumble there and spotted the Chiefs essentially 7 points, but still played great throughout that game. Comes out with still all the questions surrounding him. And the big question last year was, oh, well, can he do it when it matters most? Can he do it when somebody takes away the, Saquon Barkley? Well, Steve Spagnuolo, who a lot of people were looking at going into that Super Bowl, he's going to be the Achilles heel to Jalen Hurts. He just knows how to take him out of the game. He knows what to do. And Jalen Hurts just throws bombs on this guy and does it to the tune of the Super Bowl MVP. If this was a 17-13, 17-14 Eagles victory and Jalen threw for like 114 yards, whatever, then I'd be like, okay, well, you can't look at Jalen and be like, well, that's the reason they won. Clearly the defense.
Like Peyton Manning winning in 2015 with Denver.
Right.
With Denver,
purple rain. And
he was a shell of himself.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking. Okay, I see what you're saying. Denver against the Panthers. Carolina. That one.
Yeah.
That one. Oh, really? Now that you bring it up, we could really call into question both Super Bowl championships for Peyton Manning. But anyway, when it comes to Jalen Hurts, he got it done on the biggest possible stage. My problem is, you look at guys like Jackson, who hasn't been at that stage yet. He's a 2-time MVP, so I have him 3rd on my list. Joe Burrow, I absolutely agree, best thrower in the NFL, but he's also had tools. He's also played in the Super Bowl, hasn't been back, hasn't been able to stay healthy for a lot of it. And, yeah, he doesn't have the offensive line Jalen Hurts has, but I'm not just going to say, oh, if he had this, then he would have exactly what Jalen Hurts has, because you're talking about a guy, ultimately, that you're giving participation trophy to for not accomplishing what Jalen Hurts has already accomplished. Then Josh Allen is the reigning MVP. I think he's absolutely incredible. Matthew Stafford and by the way, Josh Allen also lost to Jalen Hurts in overtime on a phenomenal play that Jalen Hurts made 2 years ago, scampering into the end zone before they unfortunately had that awful collapse at the end of the year. Then I also look at Matthew Stafford, who I absolutely think can still sling it. You might see a revitalization, a rejuvenation of Devontae Adams with L.A. Puka Nacua is certainly broken out on the scene in large part thanks to Matthew Stafford, what he's able to get done. But, again, lost to Jalen Hurts last year on the Philadelphia Eagles in the playoffs. Then I look at Baker. I look at C.J. Stroud. I look at Baker Mayfield. I look at Justin Herbert as guys that you could certainly round out your top 10. Some of the guys that could round out your top 10 there. But for me, Jalen Hurts is a guy that is battle-tested. I hate the idea that he has been there. He has done it. And people say, yeah, but if the other guys had this, then they do it. Well, first off, you don't know that because you don't know if they would crumble under the pressure that Jalen Hurts has stood tall and strong over for years here in Philadelphia. So to me, he finally got to that mountaintop that he can't get any higher, MVP in a blowout Super Bowl victory. There's nobody other than Patrick Mahomes I'm taking over him in this NFL.
But also, by their criteria, if they did have that support system Jalen has, then aren't we going to just discredit them too? Because if Jalen doesn't get credit for doing it with a great team, then if Justin Herbert has a great team, why are we going to give him credit? You know what I mean? So this is always the problem with quarterback evaluation. It's guys that don't have a good enough support system aren't fairly evaluated, and guys that have too good of a support system, we just don't really analyze these guys well enough on an individual basis. So that's the thing is, again, I think it's pre-draft takes that people haven't moved off of because, as you mentioned, it wasn't just that he proved this year he didn't always need Saquon to do it in the biggest stages, but this guy was an MVP runner-up for a year. In the first half of 2023, after that Bills game, that overtime win in 23, he was FanDuel's betting favorite to win MVP again. So for a year and a half, he was one of the best players in the world, and then they got Saquon Barkley, so he kind of took a back seat until the championships. He had to be Batman again, and he was. So I think it's just stubbornness, and people, again, they want quarterback to look a certain way, a certain style, and I don't think Jalen will truly ever. He could win MVP this year, and I still think people won't give him credit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, they give him credit. They just might not make him number one. See, that's where everybody gets a little confused. Like, just because you don't list somebody as number one or number two, it doesn't mean you're not giving them credit.
I agree,
that's
but
what drives me
too
crazy.
Low after winning Super Bowl MVP.
Well, I had 6, you had 5, so we're kind of on the same page.
Right middle ground,
Farzette is just off his rocker. I mean, let's
9 is nuts, though.
9 is crazy. I don't.
9 is crazy.
First
9
off,
is crazy.
In every walk of life, I will acknowledge I'm a little crazy, Harry. But for this, this is not me stirring the pot. This is not me. Here's a hot take. This is not me. Hey, this will make for good conversation. It honestly drives me freaking bananas that a guy, like, if you tell me a second round pick takes over for a recently signed to a mega huge Kajunga deal like Carson Wentz had signed with the Eagles, if you tell me he then takes over the starting reins for him, becomes the starting quarterback, a year later he's the runner-up in the MVP, leads the team to a Super Bowl, has a play that he can run that is basically a guaranteed touchdown, he makes it back to another Super Bowl and wins it over Patrick Mahomes, I'm like, if this is anybody else, they're writing songs about if he's a first-round pick, if he's a top 5 pick, to Louie's point about pick bias and all that, where you're drafted. This guy, they are writing ballads about this guy, but for whatever reason, because it's Jalen Hurts and because he does come from an incredible system, Howie Roseman building a great roster, a super team, whatever you want to call it, I do not believe they are a super team without him as the quarterback. And I think that a quarterback that can have a humbleness about him to look and go, wait a minute, even if he thinks of himself as great, and I'm sure he's got a string of confidence in him that believes he's amazing. But even if you have that, which I think every quarterback in the NFL has to have.
They have to have it.
Yeah, exactly. So I just want to make the point that I don't think it's him being arrogant. It's just the confidence that you can play the position at a very high level. And all these guys on the list, I absolutely think that about themselves. But to think like that, but also acknowledge that historically you have a dream situation of Saquon Barkley behind this offensive line that you don't need to insert yourself to win unless you really have to do it. I'm not going to discredit Jalen Hurts for acknowledging, like, wait, I have something that is Barry Sanders behind the Cowboys offensive line. Let me just let me make it do that. When you need me, I'll be here. And he was there in the Super Bowl against Steve Spagnuolo and that Chiefs defense. Like, that to me is absolutely unreal. And if it's anybody else, I believe that people are talking about him like I'm talking about him. I believe they're talking about him in a top 3, top 4, top 5 at the worst type of situation, top 6 in your case, Harry. For me, I look at that and I forget about the numbers and I think about the just ability you could see on the football field every single day, and that's what he brings to the table. And I don't see anybody else that takes over that spot with simple the mental fortitude, the mental steroids this guy seems to be on. Yeah. And overall, the athletic ability on the field to look, can he throw the ball through a tire like Joe Burrow? Probably not. But when it comes to making that money throw, that dagger to Devontae Smith, he can throw it. When it comes to reading a defense and going, oh, wait, I know exactly. Saquon, here you go. That, to me, is not something I'm going to discredit him for. I'm going to give him the proper credit for, I'm not going to make the play here because I know the best play right here is to give it to this guy.
I just think in this day and age in football, guys are looking at quarterbacks and saying, man, he hasn't thrown for 4,000 yards yet in his career. He only had 18 touchdown passes last year, less than 3,000 yards, in the regular season. Is that guy a top flight NFL quarterback? And that's the way they're looking at it. So that's where I put him 6, not 9. 9 is ludicrous. How can you put a one-year player in Washington, Jaden Daniels, ahead of him? How can you do that? I don't understand that.
If you box score scout Jalen Hurts, I think you're going to be misguided. If you're saying, well, he didn't put up these numbers, so is he that caliber of player, then you don't really know the kind of player Jalen Hurts is, because he's never – even in 2022, he was an MVP finalist. He didn't put up 4,000 yards, but when you combine his rushing and passing total, which matters in the modern-day NFL, production is production for quarterbacks. If you look at it from that perspective, he's had the second most touchdowns of any of these players since 2022, only behind Josh Allen. So I do think people discredit, even though I'm closer with Harry that he's 5 to 6 closer than where Mark has him at 2. I do think people don't give him enough credit for how talented of a player he is. I do believe if you put him with the Los Angeles Chargers or a less talented team, that they're not going to probably be Super Bowl contenders.
They'll make the playoffs.
They'll still make the playoffs. The 2021 Eagles with Jalen made the postseason. So I don't think we're giving him enough credit either for his ability to elevate. I do think his mobility, his conservative, his safe play where he last year wasn't turning over the ball, I think that would bode really well for a team that doesn't have weapons. They would need that kind of guy. And I think I just think that we're a little too stuck on who we think Jalen Hurts was rather than who he's become. And I think it's not black and white, but a lot of these executives that, again, had him low on their boards probably aren't willing to budge.
Well, a lot of these nameless executives, I'd like to ask them the point blank question. Okay, so do you think Jalen Hurts is Tua? Is that who you think he is? Do you think Jalen Hurts is what's his face in Carolina, the other Alabama quarterback, Young? Bryce Young. Do you think he's the same guy as that? Because if you do, you're smoking crack. But that's who I think that's who I think they think he is.
Right. Yeah. No, and that's an unfortunate thing. Especially because, Louie, I think you hit the nail on the head with that phrase, box score scout. Mm-hmm. Here's ultimately the number one reason. All the accolades are there, but just to ignore that for a second and just talk about mindset and approach. Harry, I think you're exactly right. When you talk about not throwing for 4,000 yards or the numbers not being so inflated like that for Jalen Hurts, you look at it and you go, wow, this guy isn't that good. But that's not the game Jalen Hurts is playing. Jalen Hurts is playing the game, the only game that truly matters. Because last time I checked, we didn't have a parade for Donovan McNabb throwing over for over 3,500 yards. We didn't have a parade for that. We didn't have a parade for.
He would have loved us to have had one, but we didn't have it. Okay.
He'll always love you, even though we did it.
Number 5 will always love you.
Even though we did it, he'll still love you always. But we should have had
right.
But we don't throw parades for stats. We don't throw a parade. Check Baltimore. Baltimore has won 2 Super Bowls. Their current quarterback hasn't been to a Super Bowl.
Right.
He's won 2 MVPs. No Super Bowls. No parades for that. People act like he reads from a high school guidance counselor motivational poster. You keep the main thing the main thing. Play to the standard. Blah blah blah. That's what he truly believes. We've talked about this before on the show. If you're talking to somebody who doesn't watch the Eagles, doesn't follow the Eagles, is a super fan of some other team, and you're reading these quotes from Jalen Hurts, their eye rolls, that guy's full of it, blah, blah, blah. This guy truly believes it. He really lives it. And you see it out there on the football field. He doesn't care about throwing for those. He'll eat a 9-yard loss if it means he's not going to put the precious pigskin in peril, because he knows if he loses the turnover battle, ultimately they could lose the game.
Well, after the bye week last year, he made those decisions.
Yeah.
He made those absolutely. And what happened? They won a Super Bowl.
Right.
He's not playing the same game that everybody else is playing. I believe Jalen Hurts has cracked the code on playing quarterback. It's not about the gaudy numbers. It's about whether or not you're stacking the W's and leaving the L's alone.
To follow up on that, I think the proof of the hypocrisy in these rankings are Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills were 29th last year in passing attempts. They took the same approach that the Philadelphia Eagles did and made an AFC championship. Josh Allen didn't throw for the numbers he's used to either. And yet he won MVP. He's in the top 3 of these rankings, but Jalen's not. So it's really interesting that like the Bills kind of took the same approach as the Eagles. The Baltimore Ravens have done that in the past too. Like they've been a run-first offense pretty much Lamar's entire career. And yet, like, these players aren't punished as much as Jalen for the play style. And that's why I always go back to, I think there is some bias in this. Again, I don't believe that Jalen is the same caliber of passer consistently week after week as these players I'm mentioning, but he is that consistent in the games that always matter. And again, I just don't think we're putting enough weight, not us, but the evaluators making these lists. They're not putting enough weight into that where Jalen is always elite in the biggest games, and these other guys are simply not.
So are you saying that Josh Allen is the Penei Sewell of quarterbacks?
Johnson
Yes.
Jalen Hurts.
Yes.
Maybe. That's a good. I like that.
Yeah.
Before we move on from this, that's a great line. Let me ask you this, Harry. I'll ask you first.
Yeah.
What is the biggest BS on this list, 1 through 10?
On their list.
On their list.
Well, it's either Herbert or Daniels.
I think it's Herbert. I'm sorry. Number 7. I mean, win a playoff game.
Yeah. I mean, seriously.
I'm sorry. Like,
Yeah, it probably is Herbert.
Quarterbacks.
Herbert.
Yeah.
It's probably Herbert. Yeah.
I agree. And look, Jaden Daniels, I mean, that is.
Yeah, Daniels at 5 is crazy too, I think.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah, it's him up there, absolutely.
Yeah,
Herbert
top
being up
7
there.
or 8? Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I still think it's ludicrous. Look, I've stated my case already, but I told myself at the end of last year, there's going to be a list that comes out that has Justin Herbert above Jalen Hurts, and my head will explode. And honestly, I'm not even that angry about it anymore, because what my mind goes to is partially the draft bias. Like Howie Roseman looks like a freaking genius to get Jalen Hurts in the 2nd round, by the way.
Yeah.
So that's pretty impressive. My mind also goes to Jordan Mailata yelling to Jalen Hurts, I love when they doubt you. I love when they doubt you. It goes to Lane Johnson saying, oh, look, was that a smile? Was that a smile, Jalen? Like, it goes to the motivation that these lists provide Jalen Hurts. And look, do you want these guys to even acknowledge it? No. But Jalen Hurts always says when things like this come out, it's like, hey, I'm above it all. I go out there and I can control what I can control. Well, he controlled it to the point of providing a huge citywide party with a parade down Broad Street. So he controlled it rather well, I must say.
This list bothers me too because it's so vague. Like, what is this list? Is it the top 10 most accomplished quarterbacks in the NFL right now?
Best,
is it
just
who
best.
Would you
Yeah.
see? And I hate that because what does that mean? Like, is it who we're taking right now? Who's the most talented, the most productive? Because if Jane Daniels 5, then that means it's more who you'd want for the future
For the next 10 years.
Some of those guys are in there for their accomplishments. Some of them are they're all in there for different reasons, and that's why some of these lists are so frustrating because they're so vague and there's no real criteria for it.
Right.
Yet, I mean, it gets us going, so I guess it works every June. Every
It
July.
works.
I'm not angry.
So,
I'm not
you
angry.
got a week till
to the
camp.
fire by talking about it.
One more week till they actually report.
There is one person who I don't think necessarily was responding to the list, and that's Nick Sirianni. He just called BS on a thought that's out there of Jalen Hurts just kind of being along for the ride. Louie, this is what you call putting the quarter in Harry. We'll be back in a second. When we return, this is Locked On Eagles Squad Show on the Locked On Eagles YouTube channel. Hey, let me tell you about the incredible people at the Gametime app. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use promo code LOCKEDONNFL, and get $20 off your first purchase on the Gametime app. Logging on early, waiting for those concert tickets to go on sale. Gametime app has you covered. That's where Gametime comes in. Gametime makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop the closer it gets to showtime, or maybe face-off, tip-off, first pitch, kickoff when the NFL season rolls around. And how about this? 60% off with killer last-minute ticket deals from the Gametime app. So game, concert, comedy show, Gametime's where it's at. So take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets, show tickets, game tickets with the Gametime app. Download the Gametime app today. Create an account. Use promo code LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off your first purchase. That's Locked On NFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. Use promo code LOCKEDNFON NFL for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So, Harry, you saw this story. Louie, I don't know if you saw this story. It's been quoted all around. It's made its way around many of our algorithms and whatnot. And it has to do with this theory that's been thrown out there that Jalen Hurts is a game manager who was just along for the ride when it came to the Eagles. I guess they mean their 3 straight 10 and at worst 3 starts to the season. So, yeah, apparently just along for the ride for that. The quarterback of the team just he's on a surfboard, riding the wave of everybody else, Harry. How's that make you feel?
The game manager stuff is a whole argument into itself, and we could have a whole discussion on it for an entire show about what makes you a game manager as a quarterback in the NFL today. But that's for another discussion. The other thing was just along for the ride. Okay, fine. That was based on probably the regular season and maybe the first 2-3 games of the playoffs, but not the Super Bowl, because he wasn't along for the ride in the Super Bowl. But what annoyed me was there was a whole lot to this whole article on Philly Voice that has the quotes in it. And it says here, I'm going to read this to you. And yet, within the context of quarterback evaluations, you'll often see analysts with their chest out, proudly proclaiming that guys like Trevor Lawrence or Geno Smith are better than Hurts. Now, I want to know who said that, because I've never heard anybody say that. I've heard them say Trevor Lawrence is a better prospect, and maybe they would rather have a quarterback that's 6'6", 225, that can throw it a little bit better than Jalen Hurts. But I never heard anybody say he's a better quarterback last year than Jalen Hurts. Geno Smith stinks on ice, okay? Whoever said Jalen Hurts is not better than Geno Smith, this is the kind of crap. And then they present this to the head coach, and he says, I think that's BS. Yes, he should think it's BS, because it's absolute nonsense. The whole thing is nonsense.
Look, I think the point is extreme. There are people that certainly doubt the greatness that is Jalen Hurts.
I was going to say, that list is proof, though, that it's real.
That list is certainly proof. But the Trevor Lawrence stuff, I forget where Chris Sims had it right. Like, he tends to have the most outlandish take on Jalen Hurts there is. I just think it's absolutely bonkers. And I think last year, not this Super Bowl season, but previously, I think Geno Smith might have been ranked above Jalen Hurts on that list by Chris Sims. I can't be sure. But I think either way, it's extreme.
Well, at least you put a name to it. Is Chris Sims responsible for all of this nonsense?
Right.
I told you what I thought of him about 6 weeks ago on this show.
Yeah, Phil's son? Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
You did. Look. I love the idea, obviously, of the coach sticking up for his quarterback. And
so do I.
What else is he going to say? Of course, he's going to go to that extreme. And a guy as emotional as Nick Sirianni,
yes,
you're certainly going to throw the BS out there.
I have no problem with what he said. I loved it, actually.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The idea that anyone is thinking about Geno Smith, even at all, like literally the team that he won Comeback Player of the Year for, discarded him.
Yes.
So what are we talking about here?
He came back from being awful.
Yes, he was. It wasn't an ACL tear,
right?
An Achilles.
Yeah,
he came back. What was
that's
his?
Why they changed the stipulation for the award? They're like, I think they need to actually come back from something. It can't just be a backup turned.
Yeah, come back from once being good.
Yeah.
How about that?
From the bench. He came back from the bench. What are you doing here? Where were you? I was on the bench.
But you had to have been somewhere to return to it, and he was never the starter. So that's the funny part. I do think it's, again, to listen to the game manager label, the just along for the ride kind of takes, it bugs me because Patrick Mahomes last year led the NFL in pass attempts behind the line of scrimmage. So was he riding the coattails of Andy Reid's play calling all year? Josh Allen threw fewer than almost anybody in football last year. Was he riding the coattails of James Cook and Sean McDermott's defense? Was Lamar Jackson riding the coattails of Derrick Henry? these other guys have really good teams too. Why is Jalen the only one being punished because of it? Is it because he doesn't put up 400-yard passing games, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have big games. His big games just look different. He'll have what the Super Bowl looked like: 220 passing yards, 2 touchdowns through the air, then 70 yards on the ground and a touchdown. That still leads to almost 300 yards from scrimmage, over a 70% completion percentage, 3 touchdowns and no turnovers. But again, it looks different. And so that is why he's punished here. The game manager label, that's actually good. If you're managing the game, that's not a bad thing. But people have changed the definition of that to that label is given to guys like Sam Bradford in the day who are conservative. They aren't elevating the offense at all. And I think if you believe Jalen Hurts isn't elevating this offense, look what happens when Kenny Pickett comes in, or a couple years ago with Gardner Minshew. If you think he doesn't have an impact even on Saquon in the running game, I think you're nuts.
Here's what I'll say for the game manager thing. I believe that a game manager is the exact person that Jalen Hurts is not, considering his Super Bowl performance. You can't throw that. Like a game manager doesn't ball out in the biggest game there is. Like a game manager
don't have
doesn't
that level in them. They don't have that gear to click into.
Right.
Yeah.
They're more so, we're not going to lose you the game.
A Super Bowl winning quarterback that was a game manager makes me think of Brad Johnson.
Yes.
Sure.
With
Brad
Tampa.
Johnson,
And that's what that word really means.
Right,
But
right.
when you actually think of the literal definition of being a game manager, it's kind of what Tom Brady was. It's knowing to pick and choose when to be aggressive. I think people see game manager as someone, though, that doesn't know how to be aggressive or can't be aggressive because they're not talented enough. And that's not Jalen Hurts. I think he's a game manager in a positive way. I think last year he took a lot of good steps in that way. He wasn't that guy in 2023. He was forcing a lot of things the first 4 games this year, too. And that's when he was hurting.
And had a lot of turnovers.
Yeah, he didn't know when to. He was playing hero ball all the time. And that was always Carson Wentz's issue, too.
Right.
Yeah, but you know what? There's another word for that. That's great quarterback.
Yeah,
you know,
so we need another name for it. Game manager.
It really is like a game manager is not the worst thing in the world, but it's also not a Super Bowl champion. It's not.
But it's always used as a pejorative term.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. It's a
Yeah.
pat on the head.
It's
Thanks
never
for
a
playing.
compliment.
Yeah, no. Well, he's a game manager. Like, for
Right.
instance, Brock Purdy to me is a
Game manager. Yes.
He's a game
I
manager.
agree.
Brock Purdy ain't winning you a game. Jalen Hurts
Right.
can win you a game. Jalen Hurts, as it turns out, can win you the Super Bowl.
Right.
So I don't think of him in that term. But to go back to Sirianni stuff, like I enjoy the befuddlement whenever a list comes out and the question is posed to Nick Sirianni about a game manager or along for the ride or being ranked outside the top 10 or anything like that. Like he does a great job of really like breaking it down. He won't get into specifics, obviously, with game plan, but he talks about the preparation of Jalen Hurts and the selflessness of Jalen Hurts. And I think a lot of quarterbacks go out there, and this is where I think the lists really don't measure what he's doing. I think a lot of quarterbacks go out there, and great quarterbacks, guys you could talk about that are top 5, top 10 in the NFL, they'll go out there and say, what can I do? What can I do to make us win this game? Jalen Hurts is watching everything from, a 1,000-foot view, looking down, going, what's the best way we win this play? What's the best way we, gain, get a gain here? What's the best way we come back on a 3rd and 7? Is it the rub route to Dallas Goedert? Is it, oh, look, the linebacker's playing a little too far in. I could get this on the outside with Saquon. Is it the deep ball down the middle to Devontae Smith? Is it a slant to A.J. Brown? Like, he's looking at it from like everybody else, in all honesty, everybody else is playing checkers. This guy's playing chess. And
But is it 5D chess?
Now you're over my head. I don't even know. So I play checkers, Harry.
It's a
I'm
comment.
checkers guy.
That's a comment that's been in the news lately. I just thought it was funny. 5D chess. So we're beyond 4D now. It's like 5G in the phones. We went from 4G to 5G. Now we're 5D, 5 dimensions.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know.
Yep.
I don't know, man. But I just know that whatever Jalen Hurts is doing, these other quarterbacks ain't seeing it.
Yeah.
They ain't seeing it. And another thing that we could throw in here as well is we're talking about one of the big questions other than turnovers going into last year. One of the big questions was, well, can he survive without Jason Kelce holding his hand and bringing him along with protections and shifting protections and all that stuff? Can he do it? Well, he had a guy who never played the position before at the NFL level, and he was pretty damn good. So, like, I like, how many more questions does this guy have to answer for anybody? And I think that's also part of the BS line from Nick Sirianni. It's like, what more does this guy have to do to be ranked higher than Jaden Daniels, Justin Herbert, to have a little space between him and Baker Mayfield? Like, what?
So
what
does Sirianni put this list up in the locker room during training camp? Is that what he does?
I wouldn't put it past him.
Put it right in his locker. Yeah, no,
next to the Penei Sewell.
A big poster
Right
of
next to
Penei
him.
Sewell goes into Lane Johnson's locker, right?
To be honest, to answer your question, Mark, I don't think he'll ever be able to fully convince people unless he took a team that looks like the 2019 Eagles, where Carson Wentz is throwing to Josh Perkins and Deontay Burnett. And remember just how Greg Ward, unless he takes that kind of team to the NFC Championship or wins a title in that way, where he's throwing 40-plus times a game and putting up 4,000 passing yards, I truly don't believe he'll ever get the full credit that maybe he deserves. But I think that's why there has to almost be an acceptance point with that, because this Eagles roster is not going to get worse anytime soon around him. I mean, he has his entire offense is pretty much locked up to long-term deals where they're all getting paid top 10 money. Like that situation, I don't think, I mean, knock on wood, I don't think that's coming anytime soon in his prime. By the time that happens, he'll be in his 30s, and maybe it'll be a new era by that point.
It's funny you say that, because that's one of the things that gave Brady so much shine for the first couple of Super Bowls, is he had, average, considered average wide receivers. Then he had Randy Moss, and he didn't even win it all. But the thing was, he took like Branch. I guess Branch might have been one of his best wide receivers. There was one guy that actually played two ways, I think, at one point for a little bit. Yeah, Brown was. They're good, but they weren't great by any stretch. So Brett vaulted Brady's sort of image.
And notice Brady had different images with different versions of the Patriots. Like, he was a game manager early in his career. Then when he had weapons, he put up crazy numbers. Then when he knew his team needed a more conservative style because they didn't have those weapons. Like, I think a sign of a good quarterback or a good athlete in general is
adjusting.
You can adjust, like, not to make an NBA reference, but Russell Westbrook has never been able to win a title because he plays one way. Those kind of point guards, like, they can't fit in any system. Jalen Hurts at quarterback, like, he can fit, I believe, in any kind of system. Last year called for something different than 2022 and 2023 did. Maybe this year will call for something different if Saquon goes down. I think that's a sign of a good player, is when every year you can be a different version of yourself based on what your team needs. And he has actually said that same thing in his press conference before, I believe.
Yeah, and we've said the same thing about coaches too. They adjust to the talent, or the quarterback now is adjusting to what is necessary to win a game or win it down or win a play, like Mark said.
Also, has Tom Brady ever won a Super Bowl in blowout fashion?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Nope.
No.
That's why Jalen Hurts is better than Tom Brady. Okay, now I'm crazy. No. But no, I know honestly, you look ifdo facto. I mean, no. This Super Bowl victory, if the Eagles do go on to, let's live in this world for a second, have back-to-back Super Bowl championships, if they do go on and really have a dynasty, of all that stuff, and I still think I don't like talking about it, but let's just live in this world for a second. People will forget, and I think they already have. It's amazing to me that they already have. Jalen Hurts went to a Super Bowl without Saquon Barkley. I feel like in a very much more watered down way of talking about it. Again, and this is a huge if, they go on to have even more success over the next 2 years or so. Like, that'll be the Jerry Rice to Joe Montana thing where, people forget Joe Montana won Super Bowl. I think he won 2 Super Bowls or one before Jerry Rice got there.
Yep.
Like, it's one of those things that just kind of gets glossed over through time. People have already forgotten that Saquon was not on that first NFC championship roster.
Yeah.
They act like he's been here. They act like he was never a Giant, which I can understand why they'd gloss over that.
Yeah,
but anyway,
right.
Because especially New York media wants you to forget that he was ever there. No, he was drafted by the Eagles. Penn State to the Eagles. But I think people just kind of gloss over that whole thing, that he did that, a lot of it, not by himself, but without the best force in the NFL, which is Saquon behind that offensive line.
And by the way, that Super Bowl, just like this past one, the Eagles were not able to run the football. Miles Sanders was terrible in that game, and Jalen Hurts put up over 30 points in a shootout.
And a big drop.
Yeah. And that's why, I think there's these people, these evaluators want one thing. They're looking for one way of winning, one style, and if they don't get that, at least from Jalen. From other players, it's okay, I guess. But for Jalen, like, he's held to a different standard. And I truly believe, not to beat a dead horse, but it's because of where – if Mark made such a good point earlier. If he was a top 5 pick and he had the resume he did, I don't think this would be. So that's a part of it, too. It's not just style of play. I think it's also his draft label. People don't – if a quarterback wasn't a first-round pick, they're just not seen in the same light no matter what they do.
Yeah. All right. I want to get a couple comments in here in the next segment here, and I also want to ask you guys about the camp storylines. We're 7 days away. I am excited. Like, I usually don't get this geeked up for training camp. I know a lot of people do. I'm usually in the minority with it. You know, I'm like, yeah. Practice. But I'm geeked up. Like, I am.
You're geeked up
for the Eagles to come. I'm geeked up, my friend. I'm geeked up. When we come back, we're going to talk about some of the storylines. Take your comments. This is Locked On. It's a quick break. Locked On Eagles Squad Show. How quick? That quick. Yeah, we're back. That's right. Camp storylines, gentlemen. 7 days away. NovaCare Complex. Eagles getting back underway. All the conversation about, hey, can they make it back to the mountaintop? All the steps in front of them that Nick Sirianni was talking about. Don't even think about, this peak just yet. You got to think about what's along the way. Is there something we've missed, something we haven't talked about at length about? We've relived the entire season that was last year, the Super Bowl championship and all that. Is there something under the radar we haven't broken down yet that you think needs a little bit more of a microscope or magnifying glass on it that we need to really dive deep? Something that people are overlooking. Louie, I'll ask you this first. Something people are overlooking going into training camp again, just less than a week away.
Yeah, for me, on offense, I don't think there are really a lot of questions. And one of them is obviously Tyler Steen. But even if he's okay, not great this year, I still think their offensive line will be fine. I personally believe it is safety again. I think it's something that, because they have a second-round player. Andrew Makuba was the highest pick they made at this position since 2011, actually, when they took Jaquan Jarrett. They have Sidney Brown and Reed Blankenship. I don't think people give C.J. Gardner-Johnson enough credit for his role on the defense last year and in 2022. I think people will just assume they're going to be fine at safety. And I personally do like the talent they have there. They obviously trust Vic Fangio to get the most out of safeties, but I just have 2023 in the back of my head about how different that team looked on defense, how different they looked in the secondary without Gardner-Johnson. I'm not saying they're going to regress to that level, but safety for me is a position that I'm watching maybe the closest in camp. And right now, Makuba doesn't even have that contract signed because 30 of 32 second-round picks don't have a deal because of that fully guaranteed contract that Houston gave Higgins. So for me, it's safety. It's like, are they going to – 6 interceptions are walking out the door. Like, that's not just something to gloss over, and I don't think we're talking about that hole enough. They have options, but they're way less proven than last year.
Yeah, you're talking about the numbers there,
Well, first of all,
Louie.
I think we –
Yeah, just going to say, you're talking about the numbers there. You're also talking about a guy that was here, went to a Super Bowl, left, didn't go to a Super Bowl, came back, won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That's the proof in the pudding as far as I'm concerned, Harry.
Mm-hmm.
I think we pretty much addressed everything at length. We mentioned Kevin Patullo's name more on this show than I think his family has mentioned over the past couple of months. Tyler Steen, the right guard position. We've gone over that, pretty extensively. As Louie says, the safety position we've talked about a great deal. There's not a whole lot here. You're kind of looking for straws, and I'll find one. Jake Elliott. Your kicker had a bad year last year for him. He was one of the top flight kickers in the NFL, and last season it looked like he might be on the verge of going down on the downslide. And when it happens for kickers, a lot of times it happens very quickly. He missed what did he miss? He missed 4 extra points between the playoffs and the regular season, and he missed 8 field goals in the regular season and 1 in the playoffs, and 9 field goals, including playoffs.
Yeah. Now,
it didn't end up coming back to bite them, and thankfully the tush push did not get outlawed, so they can still, go for first downs rather than maybe have to kick extra kicks or kicking extra point. They get it down to the 1 and on a penalty. They go for the 2-pointer rather than kick. All that kind of thing is still good for them, but Jake Elliott did not have a good year.
No, it's a good point. And Sorry, Mark. I was just going to say with Elliott, I mean, you look at the entire regular season, like what he used to be great at, even when he would miss some random 30 to 40 yarders, 50 plus.
The long,
50 plus out, he was money. And last year he was, I don't know if he hit a 50 yarder until the playoffs. I mean, he hit one.
Yeah.
So
in the regular season.
I agree. That is something that I haven't really thought about myself a lot, but I mean, luckily he was consistent. He was reliable in the playoffs, but that was something heading into the postseason I was super nervous about. And kickers, like the drop off sometimes happens really quick.
Yep. Well, I mean, and it's been probably because of their success with the short yardage tush push, runs at, 4th and 1 at their own or at the opponent's 38. Okay, that's a 55-yard field goal pretty much most of the time. Okay, do you want Jake Elliott kicking that right now? I don't. Send a quarterback out there and have him stick his head in the right guard's butt and get you first down.
True.
It's that simple.
That's how it's designed, actually. When they draw it on the board, that's the exact picture they draw.
That's what Tom Brady used to do.
That's what Tom Brady is. It's just right there.
Yeah.
The tush push. So Jake Elliott, what we're saying is Jake Elliott hates the tush push.
He hates the tush push because it's killing his stats.
Exactly. And it doesn't keep him fresh or it doesn't keep him locked in throughout the game.
Right. He's lost his rhythm because of the tush push.
Exactly.
Yes.
Come on. But no, that's a great one. That's a great one to point out. Last year in the playoffs, he was 10 of 11 and 1 of 2 from 50-plus range.
Yeah.
And extra points. Wow, he missed 3 extra points.
He missed 3 in the playoffs and 1 in the regular season. Yeah.
No, that's a good one. And here's also how I know the Eagles are going to have a good year. I find that when the Eagles when we're talking about the kicker, we're talking about the long snapper, and if we talk about the backup quarterback,
that's
how you know you're stacked.
That's a good problem to have. Yeah. Exactly.
It's a great problem. Let's talk about the kicker competition at training camp, you guys.
Right.
But no, that's how you know you're gonna have a good year. If there's one thing I got to put my finger on that I think is kind of an undervalued story, and Louie, I'm gonna apologize in advance. You're not gonna like this.
Okay.
Cooper DeJean being asked to play 3 different positions, I think it's a great thing for Cooper DeJean. That's not a great thing for the roster. Like Keely Ringo, I'm rooting for Keely Ringo to beat out Adoree Jackson and be the starting corner because I think he has a great chance to do it. Louis, as you pointed out many times, to move up to get him. They didn't do that for nothing. But if you're telling me that in base defense, like a base 4-3, you're going to have Cooper DeJean playing on the outside opposite Quenyon Mitchell in the rare occasion that happens, that you're in base. And then in nickel, you're going to have him as your nickel. And then other times you're going to have him as your safety. You've drafted players and have players on this roster that's supposed to be their specialty. And we're talking about more so than just, we're just fielding things out through OTAs and minicamp. It's like part of the plan to do that. I don't like that as the plan. I like that as, hey, let's test the versatility. So in case of emergency, break glass. There's Cooper DeJean and his lovely coif of hair. Let's see what he can do. No, I don't like that. I like, Keely Ringo's got this. Drew Makuba's got this until we sign Justin Simmons, and then he'll got this. But for me,
48 minutes. Wow.
He managed to get it in.
He slipped it in. Let's go.
Is that a new record? Is that a new record? You see that little slider?
That was late.
Yeah. You're welcome. Hey, I got it in. Okay, I got it in.
You did.
He got it in.
So for me, the Cooper DeJean story I think is great for the praise of Cooper DeJean. It's not so great when you're talking about guys that are literally drafted, brought in to be competing for their specialty position, and they're going to get beat by Mr. Swiss Army knife. I think that's great for the Swiss Army knife. That doesn't say a lot about your other tools that are in the shed.
I do think you're actually right, though. I think what you hope it is that they're just testing the waters with this in case of emergency. I actually do think that is what Fangio's doing. I don't think the plan is to move him across the formation all the time, unless it is base. Like in base, they're not taking DeJean off the field this year like last year. Last year, Darius Slay was on the field. This year,
Fangio had the number of snaps they had in base defense last year. And you don't have that off the top of your head unless you're like, I didn't like the fact that Cooper DeJean wasn't on the field for 161 times last year. That to me is that's part of the plan. That's part of the plan. It's not in case of emergency.
I don't know. In nickel, I can't see DeJean suddenly being someone that's just moving all around. Like, he was too good at the nickel spot last year to not be playing that full time. Will there be more instances than last year? Yeah, because last year it was zero. Like, you didn't see him move at all. I think this year against maybe certain matchups, yeah, you might see it a little bit more. But I don't think it's this dramatic thing where now suddenly he's playing 50 to 60% of the snaps somewhere else. I don't see that. It reminds me kind of like last year when they were using Quinyon Mitchell in the slot because Cooper DeJean was injured, and they were just testing out who could play on the inside. Their nickel depth was kind of up in the air. And then the minute they were healthy and the minute the season started, Q was back on the outside. So as much as I do get excited about the possibility of DeJean playing multiple spots, I only think it would happen with injuries and maybe few and far between moments during games, depending on the kind of matchup you're seeing. But I still think like 90% of his snaps at least are going to be at nickel corner this year.
And it's another sign of the fact that you got a really good team when you're starting to sit there and say, well, the creativity of our defensive coordinator kind of worries me here because, you know what I mean? Like in camp, they tried this guy over here and over here and over here. Like it's another sign that they've got a few issues.
Like Jahad Campbell, I do think they're going to move all around. Like, I do think he's going to play inside linebacker, going to play some edge. He's going to blitz. He's going to drop back in coverage. I think they do have a true Swiss Army knife role for him in mind. I don't think they have that with DeJean. I think they know he can do it. I don't think it's to the same level, though.
I got one more. Actually, it could be a lot more. The story we haven't talked about, whatever Big Dom knows about the last month that we don't know, that's what I want to know. Because, there's some there's some meat and potatoes behind this. You know what I mean? That guy's got to write a book one day. That guy's got to do a lengthy podcast, the Big Dom show. I don't know, but man, you just know. I've joked that while Nick Sirianni and other coaches around the NFL have been like, okay, guys, everybody home by 11. Right. Don't do anything stupid. Stay off yachts. Don't go speeding. Whatever. And Jalen Hurts writes a children's book. That's pretty awesome. But you know that there's some stuff going on that we'll never know about.
Hopefully. Oh, yeah.
But
yeah, Big Dom just needs to write a book about his adventures of July throughout his career. Like,
Big Dom's July.
Big Dom's July, yeah.
Yeah, Big Dom's July. I'm going to read that book. Have it written in the same illustration that Jalen Hurts had. That'd be fun. All right, when we come back, I want to get some comments in here from you wonderful people on our YouTube comments. We'll get to you in a second. This is Locked On Eagles Squad Show. All right, let's start it off here at the top. Jeremy Von Skyver, what's going on? Joe Montana, Steve Young, Peyton Manning, Troy Aikman all had great surrounding casts around them. No one discredits their accomplishments. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. But obviously, these guys are all done, and people take it up for them. Stizzy Jenkins, Jeremy, like Coach said, that's BS. Absolutely. Linda, hello, Linda. The league doesn't want a quarterback that can run and throw balanced. They want a quarterback to just stand in the pocket and throw the ball. Jalen Hurts will make all the naysayers look stupid when it's all said and done. Here's one thing I'll say about this argument. I think we've all seen this argument. For people like me, pro Jalen Hurts, and people like Linda here, what will be enough? Because if the Eagles run it back this year, which they're with a lot of changes on their defense, they're going to still run it back offensively speaking. This whole dynasty will look at and go, well, Jalen had Saquon and he had that offensive line. I don't think there's ever going to be a point, barring Jalen Hurts is playing on the worst team in the NFL, but somehow makes them a Super Bowl contender. I don't think there's any point where Jalen will really get his flowers, so to speak, his props, his respect, unless he plays on just an absolutely terrible team.
And those teams don't win Super Bowls, so then he's not going to be judged in that way. LeBron James had Dwayne Wade. Steph Curry had Kevin Durant. Right. We don't do that with them. Patrick Mahomes has had the best play caller in NFL history with him, and one of the best tight ends ever, and a great roster. And we don't do it with all these other guys. Sirianni said it. You have to have a great team to win championships. I don't know why. For Jalen, he's not allowed to have that.
I don't get it.
Right. So you're saying he'd have to be sort of plugged into the Miami Dolphins this year and take them to the Super Bowl. Then maybe he'd get his props.
Probably not, because he's playing with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Devin Achane and a great play caller. So He'd have to take like the New Orleans Saints roster right now.
Okay.
With Kellen Moore.
With Kellen Moore,
he'd
his
have to
old
take
coordinator.
that team to a championship to really get credit.
Take the Seahawks to the promised land. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what he'd have to do.
Who do they have? Sam Darnold?
JSN, Cooper Kupp, I don't know. That roster might
Yeah.
have enough talent to discredit Jalen.
Boy, oh boy. Yeah, right? Yeah. Cooper Kupp had a resurgence. Somehow.
Right. Kenneth Walker
I don't know
stayed
what
healthy.
I don't know what this is, but I like it. The compliment to me, so I'm just going to put it up there. Thank you. Farzy has good points,
go.
too. Thank you. The two kind of
See,
takes
now,
the stink out
hold
of it.
on. So nobody was doubting that. So where did that come from? You see what I'm saying? Nobody said that Farzy didn't have good points.
People are saying, Harry. People are
See?
saying I didn't have good points,
Stizzy was
too.
thrown off by it. He
But,
said, wow.
but Stizzy's like, well, Farzy
Farzy
has
made
good
a point.
points, too. Yeah, Farzy made... Jeremy's back. What's up, Jeremy? Jaden Daniels doesn't turn into... Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's another good point. How do you know he doesn't turn into RG3? That is surprising that after the fool's gold of RG3's rookie season, that people watch a Washington quarterback and don't go, well, we bought in that one time.
Yep.
E-Money, what's up? Go Birds. Go Birds. There you go. Stitzy laughing. Good. I think that was your comment, Harry. Linda, Justin Herbert is infuriating. Lou, he's elite at winning. There you go. Stitzy's all over it today.
No, he's yelling at me. I agree. I was preaching.
The one thing about the RG3 and Jaden Daniels comparison is they do both have sprinters' legs.
Ooh.
Fair.
Yeah.
Not
Luckily,
good.
Daniels doesn't have the injury RG3 did, though, year one. So that's he's ahead of the game already in that way.
Yeah. I remember, not to name drop, but I remember John Runyon explaining to me what that meant. And I was like, he was like, watch his legs. Look what he does. Shouldn't do that. Like, it's just, that was the way he broke it down to me. And I'm like, thank you for breaking it down in ways I'd understand.
They are wearing those old jerseys, too, so maybe that's bad luck. He's going to wear the RG3 jersey now.
Is that right?
Yeah, they brought back the vintage away jersey for their alternates
they're
this year.
trying to bring back the old nickname, too.
Well, that's what I was wondering with. I mean,
Seeing that.
Yeah.
Like for me, I know one of the arguments is that logo is supposed to be, I forget the Chief's name, excuse me, but it's supposed to be a rendition of him, and his people like it, love it. Like I just take away the name. Like Washington Warriors was such an easy layup to just keep the logo and not change too many
they had
things.
a feather of
It
the
was
W
right
at
there.
least. Like that's kind of cool. At least like bring some of the brand back.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. To me, that's just damn ridiculous. Jeremy, beautiful thing. Since we've had a great wide receiving group, that's true. Here we go. Arthur McQueen. What's up, Arthur? Super Bowl MVP should never be ranked 9th. Shake my head. 3 Eagles and a Super Bowl ring. There you
Unless
go.
it's like Nick Foles. I mean, that Hurts is treated like he's the Nick Foles. Like, oh, that's a backup that just went on the Cinderella story. He's going to go back to being a backup.
Right.
That hasn't been Jalen for 4 years.
Where did Farzy have Foles ranked? That's what I want to know.
Number 3.
After he won the Super Bowl.
The greatest in the history of football? No. I mean, look, here's my thing with I will say this about Nick Foles. Love Nick Foles. Okay, let's get that out of the way. Here's one thing I could definitely say about his performance in the Super Bowl. You could take any quarterback in the history of football, and they might not win that game. Like, he played a damn near flawless game. Like, Joe Montana ain't catching Philly special, babe. You know what I mean?
It's why I've changed my stance on Wentz wouldn't have won that title. I used to think
exactly.
he would have.
Right.
I think it had to be Foles that game.
Yeah, I agree. It had to be. I agree. It was a game of destiny, if you will. But
Wentz would have tried to do a little too much and thrown an
I just don't think he like that 4th and 1 where Foles converts it to Ertz when they're down 33-32. I don't think Carson makes that play. Like,
interesting.
Yeah.
The thing I will say about that though, there are very few athletes. Like I can only think of one other that just have these very rare unconscious moments. They don't go on to have long, great careers, but they just. The only other name that really comes to mind, and you'll love this, Harry, Brian Boucher in hockey would go through these unconscious moments of just like you couldn't score a goal. Like I think he still might have the NHL record for most consecutive games without allowing a goal, like most consecutive shutouts. Nick Foles had a lot of that, but he won a Super Bowl. He won a championship, obviously.
What would Brad Lidge qualify as that?
Brad Lidge would be, he won. He had the
48 straight
season.
saves or whatever it was.
Yeah, 48 straight saves. Yeah, including the playoffs and all that. these unconscious moments. And he was great with the Astros until Pujols unfortunately stole his soul, and then he got it back in South Philly. But there are guys like that. They don't have necessarily the great careers, but they have these amazing flashes where they're just touched by something, otherworldly. And Foles never was the guy to me that was going to be the franchise quarterback. But when you need him to come in there and give you a run, he was going to give you that run. And I'll tell you this, when Wentz went down that year, I remember I was on the radio at the time. It was me and my old friend Al Morgani. It was like everyone was getting ready to light the world on fire. And Al and I were like, the Eagles are still going to make it to the Super Bowl. It's just that they won't win. They probably won't win. But Foles can be a winning quarterback with a defense that has been dominant that entire year. People forget because of the Super Bowl, the way that ended, with Tom Brady just throwing for 1 billion yards. That was a great defense leading up to that point. And you had a solid run game. So, like,
Ajayi was great at the end of the year.
Yeah, exactly. You just got to be a game manager, and you can go to the Super Bowl. Winning the Super Bowl, I thought would be next to impossible. But I thought at the absolute least, they were going to go to the NFC Championship game, and they obviously ended up winning the Super Bowl. But yeah, to answer your question, no, I never had Foles in my top 10, top 15, top 20. But for like a 5-game stretch, greatest quarterback in the history of football.
There you go.
Fun one as always, gentlemen. Thank you, everyone in the chat. It is much appreciated as per usual. We'll be back with you guys on Thursday at noon. Jason Martinez will be back with us by then. So we look forward to that. That's Louie DiBiase. Make sure you guys are liking and subscribing to everything Louie's doing right here on Locked On Eagles YouTube channel. Harry Mays has you covered for your Locked On Eagles postcast throughout the season. And I got you covered for your postcast for your Phillies and your 76ers, as well as your 76ers Locked On 76ers content. Like and subscribe to all things Locked On Sports. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Back with you guys on Thursday. See you guys then. Bye.